Welcome guys and girls to another video. Here is Dragomon Hunter. This is the first 10 minutes kind of gameplay after doing your character creation, watching the first intro. It's how quickly can you hammer yourself up to level 10 really. The most interesting content really only starts after you get to about level 20. So watching through this video you can see how quick it is to kind of burn through the tutorial content and get the basic idea of the controls, the questing system, the navigation, and character upgrades that you pretty much do in the first part of the game. You'll first notice that whenever you're playing this, you are told you use WASD. You can use WASD, or you can just click on the quest link that you want to do and it will auto pathfind for you. You'll see it right here now. Whenever I drag my mouse over to the top and click on it, it makes most events happen that are in the quick time bar. Or the quick access bar. It just does them for you. The speed that you can hammer through missions in this is quite shocking if you're kind of a power player or a power leveler. It's built around making it easy for you to do these things. Kind of like the way a auto pathfinder would do if you're auto mining, or like a lot of things that just get banned from other games. This uses auto pathfinding to maneuver you from every quest link to quest link, so you don't really do anything other than deal with the combat and the actual active part of the gameplay. The combat system is really simple. It is a taskbar with cooldowns and activation and rotations, and it's very, very particular in this mage character, the class I'm playing, where you have to time your rotations down for attacks. I found whenever I was playing it that the most part for the good first 20 levels of the game, I just needed to learn how to use my dodge command a little bit better, and I didn't really run into any problems with major enemies. Even if I did, the respawn time is pretty fast, the checkpoints are pretty nearby. This is a fast iteration game. It's really, really quick and enjoyable to just burn time and burn missions out. I was meant to only record a few minutes of gameplay of this, but I found myself dumping a couple of hours in on my first character, and then of course I created this character just to show you how quickly you can go through the tutorials. The first mini boss is right about to come up. I mean, this is actually the first time you really have to understand how to use your dodge mechanic, or how your attacks break distance from your enemy. In this particular case, I've just kind of I've hammered it so many times now. Like, I failed it the first 3 times, but I've hammered it now that I can just nail through this guy in the first 40-50 seconds. Like, I mean, the amount of content that I finish in this 10 minutes is probably going to seem a little bit overtly fast and power leveling, but that's because it is very much a description and then a tutorial into the world of the game. For anybody who's actually a younger player, I think this actually would be a good entry-level RPG or entry-level MMO. If you want to give them, it's like giving the kid crack cocaine very early on. I mean, I would recommend any kid be playing an MMO for any prolonged periods of time, but it gives them a very simple in that allows, even if they don't know where they're going, if they prefer to wander around and take a look around the map, they can quickly get back on track with a single click of the button. Already leaving out through this tutorial area, I'm moving on to Elysium, like the main hub town. I haven't seen any other hub areas that really take place before level 20, because in my previous I played through level 20 quite quickly on the other character, but on this one I didn't even play as far as getting your companion, which is a very prevalent part of the game where you don't always have to be partied up. You can party up, of course. You can take on multiple missions with other players, but you always have a companion, a second player. It's kind of like a chocobo or a summon in other games. I always make comparisons in my head to Final Fantasy 14 or 11, with 14 particularly because of how good it is recently. But having the companion there to actually do interference, distract, to attack for you so that you can step back and heal, really useful in a lot of the levels. Obviously, you've got so many fetch quests to go through at the very, very beginning of the game that you're just dropping off to know where all the stores are. But I haven't learned the navigation of the store. I don't know Elysium at all yet. Anytime I've needed to find an object, I literally just clicked on it and it's auto pathfinded for me. Sometimes you can run into a little bit of an issue with the pathfinding. You can get trapped behind a wall. but literally you just step aside from it and then click the link again, and it'll take you onto another path, or take you on exactly the same path, just diverging around the object that was blocking you off on that particular occasion. The character upgrade system is very, very simple. If you hover over each of those descriptive things, attack, defense, penetration, HP, it gives you a breakdown of how much HP, or sorry, how much damage you take from enemies of certain levels. So you just have to correspond the number. Level 12 monsters will do this much damage, and then just know how much HP you have in comparison to that. It takes a lot of guesswork out of how much you can survive against certain level enemies. You don't have to go and look up most of them, but a lot of the enemies actually just have a flat damage modifier that actually applies to your character. And the first equipment that you get is automatically pushed onto your character, like your slots are filled. And anytime you actually get new gear, it'll ask you to confirm if you want to actually use it or bind it to your account, which means that you can't resell the item. A lot of gear that I found was I kept putting it on rather than actually checking to make sure it was actually worthwhile. And in the end up having to toss it because I couldn't sell it on, so that was a bit silly. But you'll find a lot of gear dropping. In fact, one of the major problems you'll have with playing this game is that you will run out of bag space very, very quickly, especially with the amount of crafting material and crafting that goes on in this game. You can bank them and store a lot of objects, but I think one of the major things is buying bag space is what makes this game's economy continue on rather than buying cosmetics. It's actually buying space. It's inventory slots, which become very, very important by the time you hit level 20. If you go and do a batch of missions, you're going to run out of pocket space before you get back to town, especially if you're the kind of person like me who will gather 5 or 6 missions and run and do them back to back. In this particular case, the mission was just another find parts from monsters, bring back to town, get handed more gear, which is usual enough, but I don't mind that in a game which literally is about capturing monsters, riding monsters, and crafting from the bits and pieces that are left behind of the monsters. That's what this game's main mechanics revolve around. So I wouldn't concern myself. You can see here that the dodge command is it's really, really useful. It's simple enough. It doesn't require directionality in a lot of cases, unless you got a really big AoE that you have to actually move yourself out of. A lot of times it'll dodge you straight past. If you're looking at your opponent directly, it'll dodge you straight past them and behind them, so you won't have to worry about it too much, especially with the smaller mobs, not the big AoE attacks from larger mini bosses or the larger Dragomon. Speaking of Dragomon monster, the monsters that you can ride, in my other character I was riding a giant crab, but you'll see roaming creatures moving around these larger fields while you're hunting down the smaller creatures for their crafting materials, and those will be the ones that you defeat and then can ride immediately afterwards. It's they're not combat rides, they're not combat weapons, they're just for traversal speed in a lot of cases. I think some of them are actually usable for combat, but I haven't actually run into any of those in my own gameplay, except for one boss battle, I think, where it was actually set up to explain that these things exist for you to use. It comes down to a last thoughts thing on this game. I enjoyed it. I think it's actually a good entry-level RPG. Its questing system seems to be very, very quick and simple and intuitive, and doesn't require memorization of locations, maps, and traversal because of the auto tracking from point to point. So there's a lot of time saving in this, but an easy way to make this into a time sink. So I would say that this game is worth taking a look at. If you find that you got into it after about an hour and a half, and you're just really interested in the crafting side of this and the speed of it, and you think you could dump more time in, I'd recommend checking out a Wikipedia and finding out pretty much what you need to be doing and how to actually maximize your inventory slots and what you're going to do otherwise. I mean, in this particular case, I went as far just as to getting the next level weapon up, the fairy rod. I played with the crafting tools and took that up to the maximum it could be, and I was wheeling through everything up until level 20. So the crafting system in it does have effect. It does have impact on the gear that you get. The gear that you receive is worth upgrading if it's actually upgradable. So I've dropped the last bit of time in this. I think I'm just going to log out now and say thank you very much, guys. It's been an interesting game, and I recommend it to people, but it has a very unique taste to it. So I'll catch you guys in the next video.